Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's kick off with a story about how one person's kind gesture quickly turned into an encounter with entitlement. Stick around to see how one act of generosity turned into an unexpected lesson in boundaries. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. The caprese catastrophe, when good deeds aren't good enough. So quick background, I'm working from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Thursdays. Once a month, we have a team meeting on that day from 6 to 8 p.m. Since I live an hour away and others don't, I'm the only one that doesn't go home then. I just chill for 2 hours and go to a store or something, and I always come back with cookies so we can eat them during the meeting. All of my coworkers think it's a great gesture and thank me for doing it every time. So now the story. There's this colleague called Angela, and she's working from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Thursdays. So being the decent human being I am, I asked her if I should bring her some food since she'd surely be hungry otherwise until 8, and cookies aren't the best thing for a healthy diet. She told me that there was Shop X that would sell the best caprese sandwiches she'd ever had. That one was half an hour away from work. It's near the train station, so I thought she presumed I was going home anyway, so I told her that I actually wanted to go to store Y, 15 minutes away, and return. I told her I would bring her a sandwich, though. She shook her head. I'm very picky with my sandwiches. Like, I don't like fish or cheese or ham. Well, I'll see if I can find something similar to a caprese sandwich in Shop Y then, all right? Oh, alternatively, you could get me a pizza from Shop X. I was kind of annoyed by that time and explained to her yet again that Shop X was too far away and that I'd go to Shop Y. By that time, she was like, whatever, just get me something from Shop X. I didn't correct her really. I thought she'd see when I returned, so I went to Shop Y as I had planned, bought the cookies for the meeting along with some other things, then looked at the sandwich section. I even was lucky enough to get a caprese sandwich. Perfect. I bought it too and went back to work. By the time I went back, it was 10 minutes before the meeting would start, and I smiled, giving her the sandwich. Oh boy. Angela, what's that? Me, your sandwich. I found caprese even. Angela, but it's not the right one. I told you 100 times I wanted it from store X. I was really taken aback, like, what? She had the audacity to ask me to make up for my mistake, and I nodded, took the sandwich, and gave it to the other colleague that needed to work until 6. I know it's not a very exciting story or anything, but I wanted to share. It was the first time I came across one of those. Edit. For those of you asking, if she didn't like cheese, why the hell did she want caprese? Most people I know hate cheese, tragic because I live in Switzerland, but have no problem with mozzarella. Also, yes, caprese sandwiches are a thing here. Wow. Angela really put the extra in extra picky. Offering to bring her food was already a kind gesture, but her demands for a very specific sandwich from a far-off shop and then her meltdown when it wasn't exactly what she wanted just screams entitlement. It's baffling how she ignored your generosity and focused entirely on her own expectations. You went above and beyond by even looking for a caprese sandwich at Shop Y, which was totally reasonable and thoughtful. The fact that she threw a fit instead of just being grateful for your effort is peak Karen energy. At least your other colleague got to enjoy the sandwich. And hopefully, Angela learned a lesson about not biting the hand that feeds her. Literally. And our second story. Karen versus The View, a scenic roast to remember. I was at a national park with my girlfriend, and we were resting at a great spot that had amazing views. We were sitting down for a few minutes when a group of about 5 people come up and stop to take pictures. We were about 70% out of the way of the best spot, and I hear, let's just wait until these people move. I know she's talking about us, so I scoot back a little to accommodate, no big deal. While standing about 2 feet from us, she just keeps talking about us like we're not even there. Well, if they'd move, we'd have much better picture. They want to be rude and inconsiderate to everyone else. And that was the one that got a response out of me. I calmly and simply said, we're just taking in the views and relaxing. She responds, this is a great spot for photos, and you're ruining it for people who want their picture here. I told her the trail is out and back and not a loop if they want to take one on the way back, and she tells us, we'll just wait for you to be done being selfish with the spot. So I tell her to be patient or shut up and move on. I was getting a little upset. My rest and views were bothered by this early 50s lady was just so upfront and rude and couldn't even address us. By now, there was about 10 people standing around taking pictures and also watching this lady get pretty heated. I finally stand up and tell her if she asked politely for us to move initially, I would have been more accommodating, but calling us rude and selfish behind our back with us within earshot was not the civil way to handle it. What Karen didn't know was I kept taking glances at her near the end, made the kill shot observation, and as she said, kept talking about us being rude, I said, your attitude has been insufferable, and I can guess that's probably why there's no ring on your finger. I really need to thank Reddit, as this line was mentioned in an Ask Reddit thread. What's an insult that doesn't call names or use profanity? It went perfectly. Her face was as if someone had never stood up to her crap before. You could see it go through her, and the realization forced one move, and all she could do was slump and look down at the ground. One of her friends said that was too far, and maybe they're right, but I ended it with, all I did was make a logical conclusion based on an obvious observation. The others with and without her were pretty great. A few laughed. One guy said, oh crap. Hopefully this prevents her from being an insufferable bee to people in the future. That was the ideal way to handle arrogance. Karen felt she could make you give up your quiet moment, but you stayed calm and provided a straight, gratifying answer. Your humorous Reddit-inspired comment was the appropriate reality check to her entitlement to her once over others. It may have been unpleasant, but she was always rude, so it seemed okay. Instead of insulting someone, you said something likely to be accurate at the right time. And our last story. Karen's kingdom crumbles, the HOA power trip that backfired. 5 years ago, my wife and I purchased a charming home in a quiet cul-de-sac just outside a bustling city. It had a big backyard, lots of friendly neighbors, and a so-called low-key homeowners association. We thought it was a dream come true. Boy, were we wrong. Not long after we moved in, the letter started. At first, it was minor, a warning about our flower beds not being uniform with the neighborhood aesthetic. Then it was about our kids' basketball hoop, which apparently wasn't allowed in view of the street. We complied, chalking it up to standard HOA antics. But little did we know the nightmare was only beginning. After a couple of years, our fantastic next-door neighbors moved out, and in came Karen and her husband, Ron. At first, they seemed nice enough. Karen brought over cookies, Ron chatted with me about football, and they even invited us over for drinks a few times. But then Karen got elected as HOA president. Within weeks, the neighborhood transformed into her personal kingdom. Karen would stroll through the cul-de-sac, clipboard in hand, taking notes on everything from lawn heights to porch decorations. She wasn't shy about trespassing into backyards to investigate violations. One day, I came home from work to find Karen snapping pictures on my back porch. Me: Karen, what are you doing on my property? Karen: just documenting some issues for the HOA. I have the authority to inspect any property under HOA jurisdiction. Me: actually, that's called trespassing, and it's illegal. She scoffed and walked off, muttering about how I clearly didn't understand the HOA's power. That's when the fines started coming. The fines were petty at first, $50 here, $75 there, for things like incorrect garbage bin placement or weeds in the driveway. I fixed each issue right away and disputed the fines with the HOA's property management company. Most were dismissed, but the pattern was clear. Karen was targeting us. Then came the big one. I owned a small landscaping business and used a work truck and trailer during the day. One afternoon, I parked it in front of our house while unloading supplies. Karen swooped in like a hawk, snapping pictures. A few days later, I received a $100 fine for prolonged commercial vehicle parking. I wasn't about to let this one slide. The HOA rules clearly stated that vehicles couldn't be parked overnight, but mine never was. I requested a formal review with the HOA board, the property management company, their attorney, and my attorney. At the meeting, Karen presented her evidence: a single photo of my truck parked in front of my house. Me: can you prove this truck was parked here for more than 24 hours? Karen: I don't need to prove it. I'm the HOA president, and I know the rules. Me. That's not how this works. Without proof, this fine is invalid. Karen's face turned red. She pointed at me and shouted, "You should be a good neighbor and follow the rules, soldier boy." That's when my attorney stepped in. Calmly, he pressed record on a small device on the table. Attorney, just to clarify, we've been recording this meeting. Under state law, that's perfectly legal. We now have evidence of your harassment and will be filing a lawsuit. Karen's smug expression faltered. Attorney, oh, and one more thing. Did you know that if this HOA goes bankrupt due to legal action, every homeowner will have their mortgage due in full? I wonder if your neighbors are aware of that. Karen sat in stunned silence as we walked out of the meeting. A month later, the HOA held new board elections. I let a few trusted neighbors know I was running for president. On election night, 6 people, including me, voted for my candidacy. Miraculously, Karen's name was announced as the unanimous winner. Me. Strange. 6 people here voted for me. How does that add up? The room went silent. Me. That's okay, let it stand. I'll just forward everything to the state's attorney general's office. I'm sure they'd love to investigate voter fraud in an HOA election. Karen resigned within a week. A new, reasonable board president was elected and the property management company was replaced. From that day forward, I didn't receive a single fine or letter. When we sold the house a couple of years later, the neighborhood was peaceful again, but I'll never forget the lesson. Don't mess with a paratrooper or their lawyer. It's both infuriating and a satisfying story. Classic HOA Karen, spying, trespassing, and throwing baseless fines like confetti. Her audacity, from snapping backyard photos to blatantly rigging an election, is genuinely something else. But your response? Absolute perfection. The recorded meeting, the pointed legal reminder, and the quiet confidence you carried were the kryptonite to her ego. And that election twist? A well-earned victory for you, the neighborhood, and everyone who's ever been Karen. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.